everyone, it is Dani'i and welcome to this update video. I trust and hope you're doing amazing. It is a start to a brand new week, a brand new work week for many of us as well, and we're going to be looking at what is going on in the realm of weather across the Caribbean region. But in addition, we want to delve into the geologics of the region. So we've had a couple of earthquakes across the region, some of which are associated with that magnitude 7.6. So the most recent aftershock within that area was a pretty moderate shaking. So we're going to talk about that. So after these major earthquakes, sometimes for days, even weeks or months after the main shock, aftershocks still continue, earthquakes that are still related to that sequence. So we're going to be looking at the details. And of course, that earthquake at the time on Saturday had prompted tsunami advisories across many Caribbean islands and even coastal Central America, the Caribbean coast of many of the different territories, because a 7.6 is a very powerful earthquake that would have displaced a very large volume of water in the Caribbean Sea, and thus might have resulted in those choppier seas offshore many places, stronger ocean currents, or even those huge waves crashing ashore. So when we think of tsunamis, we automatically assume it's this massive wave that's going to wipe out the entire Caribbean islands. That's not the case. So that is how it's normally depicted, or even growing up, that's what we hear about and what we think about when we hear the word tsunami, but that's not necessarily true. Tsunamis don't just look like a huge wave just coming in and just wiping out an entire area. But of course, there have been noticeable events of tsunami waves, that's that very large volume of water just making its way to the shore and inundating many places. We saw that in 2011 with that major Japanese earthquake, and even back in 2004 in Indonesia. But tsunami waves don't always just look like a huge volume of water headed towards you, or a huge wall of water. It doesn't always look like that. So related to that earthquake back on Saturday, the most recent aftershock as of when I'm recording this video was a magnitude 4.76 quake early this morning. As we can see, it didn't hit any land areas, and it's within that same general area, well off Jamaica to the southwest, well off Central America. And as we take a look at other places within Puerto Rico, there's been a few earthquakes as well in and around the island. Nothing crazy, pretty much usual. There are always a few earthquakes happening almost every day, and most of them are not even noticeable because of how minor they are and also how deep they are, because the deeper they are in the Earth's crust, remember, the crust is huge slabs of rock. When those seismic waves are traveling through the rocks, they lose energy. So when they actually reach the surface, they may not even be noticeable at all and are only detected by the various instruments. So that's what went on. And even as we go back to this graphic here, we can see more of these pins towards the Pacific coast of Central America. Now, Central America is located pretty much within the vicinity of the Pacific Ring of Fire. So that is a zone that's very active, very seismically active. A lot of earthquakes, a lot of volcanic activity takes place along and within the Ring of Fire. So we find that earthquakes are always happening here. So that's what went on in terms of the seismic activity of the Caribbean region. Now, in terms of the weather, let's look at the Atlantic Basin here. We can see that we've got that frontal system which has moved out of the U.S. We've got a bit of moisture across the Caribbean. As we zoom in closer here, we can see we've got these clouds coming in from the east, helping to influence the rain for parts of the Lesser Antilles and even towards the ABC Islands. And then in the Western Caribbean, we've got some of those higher clouds under the influence of the upper level winds moving up to the northeast. But overall, as we take a look at the rainfall forecast throughout today, we can see mostly these green shadings around. So for parts of the Greater Antilles, a few spots in Jamaica, Hispaniola, maybe Cuba, especially in the east. Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, there could be some showers around in a few spots, nothing crazy. Intermittent rainfall likely to continue for much of the Lesser Antilles, going to the ABC Islands. And towards Central America, of course, there's some moisture within the area, especially near the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, going to Panama, and even parts of Honduras and Belize may experience some showers today. Northern South America will likely be active, parts of Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. And then towards the Cayman Islands, much rain not expected at all. Mostly going to be windy today and sunny. And then for much of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, much rain is not expected either. And as I mentioned, it is going to be quite windy. So many places in the Caribbean, especially towards the central Caribbean, will be very windy. So those winds exceeding 15, 20 knots with higher gusts. So that's going to be the main story across the region. Not anything crazy for the time of year. It is very windy out there. But of course, we're in a La Niña. La Niña is normally influenced by the trade winds when they're blowing stronger and they displace warm water at the ocean surface within the Pacific further west. And we got cooler water coming up to replace the warm water. So we find that ocean surface temperatures are cooler than average within the region, the ENSO region, El Nino Southern Oscillation. So that's what we have going on right now, guys. And even looking at the future in terms of going to March, April, May, it's likely that it's going to be wetter than normal in the Caribbean because of La Niña as well. So that's something that I'm going to delve into in a video on my second channel. It's something that I'm currently working on. You surely will be notified once I make that post. So stay tuned, guys. But that's pretty much what I wanted to bring to your attention today. And I do hope you found this update to be informative. But if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll get to you when I can. And remember to always be weatherwise.